Hey Saab people, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what our 2026 options are for center drive shafts on our 9.3 all-wheel drives. The reason I want to talk about available products is because I care about the Saab community and I want them to get exactly what it is they need and exactly what it is they want and get rid of all of the misconceptions out there. I'm going to be going over 4 things. We wouldn't be able to go anywhere without first talking about the stock drive shaft. Second, I'm going to be going over JXB drive shaft carriers. I'm going to be going over Roland's drive shaft at Hill Saab. And finally, I will be going over my performance drive shafts that I have built. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Javen, but you probably know me best as Solving Saab. Let's get right into it. So as stated, let's first off start by talking about the stock drive shafts. I'll go ahead and throw up a picture of one on the screen so you can kind of see what we're dealing with here. These are a 3-section drive shaft. They are non-separable and they cannot be serviced in any of the middle components. The only 2 things that can be fixed or replaced on these drive shafts are the entire end flange on the back that connects to the actual differential itself, and in the front on the prop, you can replace the boot that goes around it and you can re-grease that front prop on the inside. The U-joints constantly break on these. You can technically fit in an Alfa Romeo U-joint. The one time I tried it, we could not get the drive shaft to balance properly. The next thing that goes bad on these drive shafts, and the reason I'm going to talk about this extra heavy, is because this is a big part of the JXB carriers coming up next. The second most common failure on these drive shafts are the carrier bearings in the center. As many of you know, those cannot be replaced either. There is a bushing that surrounds a carrier bearing and they sit in the middle of the shaft. Now what goes bad on these is the carrier bearing itself. When the bearing seizes up, it tears the bushing that surrounds it. Second thing that can happen is a U-joint can go bad, which will cause the drive shaft to be thrown off balance and the center of the carrier will tear your bushing on the outside, which will give you a situation where your carrier in the center is good, the bearing itself, but the bushing is bad and you secretly have a bad U-joint. The third and quite rare scenario is the bushing itself can just tear or crack due to age. I have seen the stock drive shafts last a very long time in places that are very dry, don't have a lot of salt. In Vermont, I have seen stock drive shafts last just over 2 years, and I have seen them last in Vermont under 2 years on heavily tuned vehicles. These drive shafts typically become available in batches, and they are between $1,200 and $1,500 from different suppliers, but typically they are about a 12-week lead time from Sweden. So next, let's get right into the JXB carriers. I do think that the design of the carriers is very neat, and I think it was a well thought out engineered item. As far as our cars go, it is not really a solution. The reason I say this is because of the 3 ways that a drive shaft carrier will go bad. Let's talk about the rare scenario that just the bushing that surrounds the bearing goes bad. If you buy JXB carriers, you cut off the old carriers and you bolt your new ones on. You get a little bit more mileage out of that drive shaft you have. At that point, you have a used drive shaft with performance bushings on it, and who's to say how long it is before the actual carrier bearing itself goes bad or the U-joints go bad, at which point you would likely need to get a brand new drive shaft anyway. Now remember, from the stock drive shaft conversation, the other 2 ways that you can blow out your bushing if your carrier bearing itself goes bad, you have to understand that the JXB carriers do not replace the broken carrier bearing. That's a huge misconception that people have about that product. You would need a new stock drive shaft to destroy and void the warranty from whatever place you got it to put on the JXB for a little bit more dampening. And remember, the other situation where a bushing on the inside can go bad is if your U-joint goes bad. You would have to replace the U-joint and hope that it works. That becomes a pretty big risk, and you run having to spend $1,200 on another drive shaft just to utilize the $500 JXB carriers that you purchased. The only way to get the full benefit of JXB carrier bearings is if you get a brand new drive shaft that has no mileage on it. And at that point, it could potentially increase the service life of that drive shaft if nothing else went wrong. Also, something I should clarify is that JXB carriers are not compatible with my drive shafts or Roland's at Hill Saab, the ones that they produce either. Now that we've talked about the stock drive shaft and JXB, let's go ahead and go over Hill Saab's drive shafts that they are now producing. These are a fantastic product because he's redesigning them and adding all serviceable components. So you can now service your U-joints, carrier bearings, bushings, and everything on it. And the entire shaft is much cheaper and available sooner. So I don't know exactly what his pricing is, but I believe it's between $850 and $1,000 shipped to your door. You're looking at something much cheaper than the stock drive shaft, and you have serviceability. When Roland unveiled these at SOC, his main argument was that it doesn't matter whether his drive shafts that he's building for these cars last 1 year or last 10, because the price point that you're able to get them at is so much more cost effective. You are looking at a cost effective redesigned drive shaft, and honestly, the whole thing is just genius. I actually just got off the phone with Roland last night, and he's invited me to go down and take a tour of the place, and we are going to exchange some knowledge. Stay tuned to the channel. So, huge praise to Dean Hill Saab. You are doing a huge thing for the community. The last thing I want to talk about are my drive shafts that I have rebuilt. These take your broken stock drive shafts and convert them into a performance product. My drive shafts are designed with longevity and high horsepower in mind, and that is what makes these so expensive. You're looking at larger diameter tubing, larger flanges that fit Toyota U-joints, which are much larger than the stock U-joint and therefore less likely to go bad. These U-joints are also greasable, so you can service them. On the inside of the carriers, you are looking at a custom fit design where we add in BMW stiffer bushings and carrier bearings. You can replace your carrier bearing, you can replace your bushing, you can replace your U-joints, everything. What you are looking at is a completely custom drive shaft that is built with performance in mind. Everything is a stronger than factory design, and that is what makes them so expensive. Now, I have sold a bunch of these drive shafts, but typically they go to tuners and Saab folks that are willing to spare the extra expense for something that will last a long time. If you're interested in one of these drive shafts, go ahead and hit me up. And they do require you to hand in a core because I am all out of them. So we'll get in touch. Thanks so much for watching the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.